there's really two things there, and certainly, Mesh, I think you're exactly right, and that is a strategy, is to make your book available in as many formats, on as many platforms as possible, to maximize the exposure of the book to as many communities as possible. Now that's a real life strategy, and certainly technology makes that possible. I think in terms of building community, what I usually tell people is to, because we have two things going on. You have this great ability now to relate directly to readers, which authors really, they never kind of had that so much before. You wrote the book and the readers were out there somewhere, and you might get letters once in a while through your publisher, but there wasn't a lot of direct communication. So that's very exciting for today's authors. But on the publicity side, when we're talking publishing strategies, I think it's really useful to think about networks. So what you want to do as an author is to build a network of networks. So in other words, like Nina, she now has Michael Hyatt, let's say, in her network. Well, he has his own network. So Nina is building a network of networks so that there's a multiplying capacity there as it goes out to your network. And if it's something good and something, very useful, like Nina's great book about blogging, then it will spread through those networks. So I think that's a great strategy also, the network of networks. And that's very interesting. So, I'm really interested in the idea of publicity and marketing for self-publishers, and I think that's particularly appropriate here today. But and I think that we're very lucky to have somebody who's a publishing publicist here to help tell us about this. But the fact of the matter is that many self-publishers are not really prepared for the fact that they have to pay for all these services. Oh my God, you could spend a lot of money, and if you really want to publish properly and try and push your book out throughout the country, and you're going to need marketing people and a publicist at least for some period of time. So my question is, how is it that self-publishers deal with the whole marketing and publicity end of book publishing? Because again, it's similar. Like if nobody knows your book is out there, there's not much you can do. And while advertising is not really the answer for self-publishers, it's very rarely effective. Publicity can be very effective, and it doesn't always have to cost a lot of money. So I'm curious in how you see that, and whether there's any, if anybody has anything to say about it, the difference between the traditional publishing model where the publisher is providing some kind of publicity help, or the author may be going out and contracting on their own, and the self-publishers. What are they supposed to do about getting publicity or PR for their books?
Well, I've never gone the traditional route, so I don't know. But as a self-publisher, you basically have to do that yourself. So it's a lot of elbow grease, like Joel said. Paying for it usually hasn't received a lot of returns on that. I haven't seen it myself, and I know other self-published authors who didn't get a lot of juice from that. So it's kind of like what we've been talking about networking, building your community, and getting the word out. Blogging is very important, and there's plugins that you can use. If you use something like WordPress, where wherever you write a new post, it tweets it out, posts it out to Facebook. I've seen Facebook being really big, creating a Facebook page, separate from your personal Facebook account. You want to keep that separate. Just create your own little Facebook page, and then that way you can start branding yourself and getting publicity, driving people to that site. The readers want to get to know you. Like that wall has been removed, so readers want to know how you come up with your ideas, your characters, and your locations. Video is really big right now. It's very easy to do a video. It doesn't have to be really professional or anything like that. Put it on YouTube. That type of marketing publicity, you just have to do it. At least in my experience, I've just been doing that on my own. So it's just a time getting organized and elbow grease and getting out there and getting the word out on yourself as an author and your titles and your books.
Okay, so this is such a huge question. I just ran a panel like this at our author workshop a few weekends ago. Our Bear Cooler authors grouped together to form an author cooperative, and every year they put on a marketing workshop that is open to all people. It's on their website. It's once a year. It's usually here in San Francisco. But so the topic of my panel was, how is traditional PR, really evolving, and how is it changing? Because it's not just for self-published authors. We have many authors that we encourage published authors to hire outside publicists, because there's only so much one in-house publicist can do when you're working on, say, 20 or 30 books at the same time. So many of our authors hire outside publicists, and sometimes they hire 2 and 3 outside publicists, because what we're seeing now is the nature of traditional publicity is changing and evolving into much more of an online marketing type strategy. So it's becoming less and less about being a voice to the media and really actually just getting content on the web and out in all of the communities that you need to be in where your readers are. So if you're a political book, you want to be on alternate.com, you want to be on care2.com, you want to be at Firedog Lake, and then you want your content to appear there, and then you can do social networking around it. So what's happening, you used to be able to hire a publicist, and we still do. Sometimes once in a while we'll hire a publicist as the publisher, but most of the times it's up to the authors. So we still have our big New York publicists, that claim they can get you on the Today Show and CNN and the Colbert Report, but it's just that market, it's just shrinking. Like, those opportunities are so impossible. And there's also really no hard data that publicity sells books. We find there are very few publicity outlets that move the needle on sales. A few things like Marketplace, NPR, All Things Considered, Krasny, there's a few things. We do see big bumps from Colbert and Jon Stewart, just like we used to see with Oprah, but that's very small. So what I see publicists have started doing is they've starting to niche out their services as well. So if we have a book on leadership, we have one publicist that all she specializes in is online leadership blogs and websites, and she has her whole methodology. We have another publicist who specializes in specifically radio, but really specifically in business radio. And then we have another that's in traditional print. We have online PR, which is now going out to websites that are like Forbes.com, BusinessWeek.com, the traditional media, but the online iterations of that. So what we've seen, and speaking is such a huge thing too, and where publicity really helps is publicity helps you get your speaking engagements. Because if you see a New York Times review, or even like the new New York Journal, there's a review. Any type of really good review will help with your speaking engagements or with client work, helps on your website. It gives you credibility that way, but it really doesn't guarantee sales. So that's what we're seeing. Things are much more niche-y. I think a self-published author can definitely, if you know your niche, you can go to associations that are, that work in that niche. So whether it's, ASTD, we have a lot of books about training. So it's the Society of Training and Development, SHRM, Human Resource. If you try to get in those communities and then get in their e-newsletters, get in their website content, then you can really work a niche as a self-published author. And I can answer more questions later because I have lots to say about that.
We'll have questions, yeah.
So I have to say that for the self-published books that I did early on, I really didn't promote. I just kind of did them and put them out there, and when I went and spoke, I sold them, and my promotion method was to go out and speak. With the traditionally published book, I've been really lucky. Writer's Digest is very helpful with promotion, and they had a publicist who did some work on contacting reviewers and things like that. I haven't seen a big result from that, I'd have to say, but we had a conversation about promotion, and her feeling was that if I was going to spend money on promoting the book, the only place I should spend it was on radio. And I had been thinking about radio, but I ended up spending most of my time and not money on, as I said, I put my efforts into a blog tour. It was quite extensive. I did something like 24 stops in 22 days or something, or 25 stops, and I also had a couple podcasts in there as well. And that seemed to work pretty well. And I also, because it was with Writer's Digest, I had a few extra things with Writer's Digest. Then I decided that maybe I would put some money into some other kind of publicity. And so I have hired for just a 3-month period a publicist, PR person and publicist, who is focusing on traditional media. And much like what has already been said, it's some of it is online, but I wanted sort of top-tier radio, top-tier magazines and newspapers, and then TV if we could get it, because while I have a lot of radio experience, I don't have any TV. So we've had requests for some newspapers and things like that, but we're midstream in it, and so I can't tell you whether it's resulting in anything yet. But based on what the publicist at Writer's Digest said, I decided that maybe it was worth it to try. But I went on a very low scale. We didn't do like 6 months or a long. She would have liked me. The publicist would have liked me to have done. The one I hired would have liked a longer campaign, but I didn't really want to put that much money into it. It would have been like my whole advance, and I wasn't willing to do that. So we went short, and we'll see what happens. But I really have seen, to be honest, more come from the efforts that I've been doing so far, and not that this has gone very far yet, but and I've been doing some work really with the social networks, and that's sporadic. The results I see, things like I have a Twitter tip campaign going on, which I know Mike, your client, came up with that idea, the Twitter tips. Yeah, Patrick, I can never pronounce his last name. Schwartzfeger. Yeah, and I have to look closer at how he did that, because I think he had a lot of success and I have sort of mediocre success with it, but it's where you put a tip up every day on Twitter, and people are supposed to retweet it, and I don't get a whole lot of retweets, and I give away a coaching session with it. Like I give every week I give away a free 15-minute coaching session. And I've been trying to get people to put up pictures of, first it was, go to a bookstore, find my book, put up a picture, say where you saw the book, and that didn't really work. So now I'm like, just if you bought the book, put your picture up on Facebook, tag me, and at the end of the week somebody gets a 15-minute coaching session. But nobody's really doing that yet. So I've been trying all kinds of things.
Can you explain the dynamics of a blog tour?
Of a blog tour?
Yeah,
sure. You guys want me to do that now, or hand it over to Mash? You want to hear? Okay. So a blog tour is when you set up, it's a virtual book tour, basically. Instead of going to bookstores, what you do is you find a bunch of bloggers who are within your niche, and you ask them kindly if they would be willing to let you do either a blog post for them, or they maybe send you a Q&A and you answer it, or they review your book on their blog. And you set it up over a period of a month or something, and what happens is then every day or every other day, however you have it set up, some people do it where they all post on the same day, but that's enormously difficult. Anyway, over a course of time, you have all these blog posts coming up with all information, and it's all original information, so you can't run the same blog post every day. You have to have, so I wrote 24 or 25 blog posts all on the same basic topic. It's like writing another book. Anyway, so they all post, and every one of them has a picture of your book, probably, and your photo, and tells where to go buy your book, and it's great promotion for your book. So it's a tour, basically, of blogs. Does that make sense?
Thank you.
Did you see any response from like Amazon sales in response to it?
Yes. My blog tour started at the point when, so my book came out at the end of, at the very end of April, and I started the blog tour at the beginning of June, and at the very end of May, Amazon upped the price of my book. So I had been having very good sales, and I was on the bestseller list, like on the top 20 in my category, and just when they upped the price, my book dropped like a rock. And then my blog tour started, and up went my sales again. So yes, and I can see in my analytics on my blog that the blog tour did amazing things. It was very, very successful. And I'm doing another one in October, but I'm not organizing it this time. Somebody else is organizing it for me. I'm paying someone to do one for me that's shorter in October because that's the beginning of the buying season for the holidays. Because I would do one every few months because I think that they're very successful. It's your turn.
We were talking about publicity.
Yes, we were talking about publicity.
No, that's fantastic stuff. I really like the passion of the self-publisher and the willingness to get out there and try all these new things. You'll find that you know, if you are eager and you're willing to put in the work, that you're going to get a lot of return on these different types of strategies. So, for example, Nina does it. I think you know, you guys talked about it earlier about giving away things for free. You know, in order to build your brand or to build your community. And I think that's a really important piece of your strategy as well. We have, or I wrote a book called the iPad Publishing Guide. And it's an ebook and it's out, and we made it a free ebook, but we put it out in the channels, you know, Kindle, iPad, Nook, and all those other places. And the reason that we made it free is because the book is really about how to use Fast Pencil to publish an ebook, you know, on the iPad. And so the value of the book to us is that the readers come to use Fast Pencil. So we've had, I think, over 100,000 downloads of that ebook in the channels so far. And you know, the reason is because there are people out there in the channels, whether it's Kindle or, you know, Amazon or iPad or Nook or whatever, and they're browsing around and they're looking for that content. You know, I guess kind of one of my philosophies is fish where the fish are. And you know, if you just throw your book out or you throw your line in the ocean, you know, haphazardly, the likelihood that you're going to catch any fish is pretty low. But if you think about, you know, your community, you think about the network of networks that's already been talked about, you know, and you really refine your niche, then you're going to be able to get your book, whether it's a free book or maybe it's an article that you wrote about something in that industry that where you get to mention your book, you know, then that's going to help a lot. One of the things that we just announced this week, or actually last week, is a partnership that we have with Barnes & Noble. Fast Pencil is one of the only actually I think we're the only self-publisher that has a special relationship with Barnes & Noble through an imprint that we started called Wavecrest. And Wavecrest authors actually get their books presented to Barnes & Noble buyers. And the Barnes & Noble buyers work with us from the beginning of the publishing process through actually publishing and release of the book to help us to create something that their retailers, you know, their customers will buy. And as a result of that, we've had, I think, 4 books placed in Barnes & Noble stores in special selected areas, you know, whether they're at the big table at the front of the store when you go in, you know, and that isn't necessarily publicity, but it's fishing where the fish are, you know. And so the orders that Barnes & Noble places for your books, 3, 5, 10,000 book orders, as opposed to, you know, selling 1 or 2 books here and there. So, you know, that's not the solution for everybody, but if you think about your book, your niche, and your industry, and then think about, you know, not just going on a haphazard radio tour or a haphazard blog tour or whatever, but just making sure that when you invest time, that you're investing it in a place where, you know, it's going to really pay off. You know, and be prepared to spend money. I mean, a lot of people in the self-publishing industry are like, I don't want to spend any money, but I want all the profit, you know? And well, you're going to get all the profit of like 2 books. So, like, be prepared to spend money. Hire a publicist, because you have more profit to work with now. You know, you're going to get 50, 60, 70% of the sale price of the book as a royalty, as opposed to, you know, 10, 15, 20% if you went through a traditional publisher. So be willing to invest in your book and do it. And, you know, I really like a lot of the specifics that people have said, you know, but it all comes back to community, you know. And then I have to say this. It all starts with a good book, too. I mean, you cannot publish a Microsoft Word document and no matter how much money you spend doing it, it's still, you know, going to be crud. You know, so put, you know, invest in editing, invest in good cover design, so that when you do put your book out there, you know, the people who you know are going to spend money on it are really happy with the value they're giving to it. So.
Can I add one thing too about the specifics of publicity as a self-published author? When I go to pitch anybody or any media, any website, I'm never pitching the author's book. I'm always pitching the author. And I think you want to pitch the author or yourself as an expert in your field of study and what you do well. And that's where, you know, if it's just a book, then it's so limiting. And so, you know, one of the more important things too is to, when you're doing your website and your book, think about branding, because you're really branding yourself, and then you're going out into the world as an expert in your topic. And that will get you a lot more media attention. You know, that will get you something like a Huffington Post blog. Or, you know, we have lots of authors that have become regular Huffington Post bloggers because they're an expert in their subject matter. Or BeliefNet.com, which is a really great website. And we have, you know, our BJ Gallagher, who, being Buddha at work, you know, she's a spiritual sort of practitioner, but she has great columns with the Huffington Post and with BeliefNet. And so in a way, you brand yourself as an expert, and you can be the creator of your own PR, right? So you are a writer, so continue writing, and write in places where you can give expert advice, and oh, by the way, I have this book for you.
Yeah, I forgot to mention, as I got going on those blog tours, that another great thing is that you can be pitching yourself. There are great sites out there that you can subscribe to, like helpareporterout.com, harrow.com, and you will get 3 times a day pitches from journalists, and Steve Harrison's Reporter Commission, and Drew Gerber's pitchrate.com. These sites will send you information every day from journalists who are looking for people to interview. And a lot of times, you know, they're going to love the authors. And I learned about this. You have to, if you watch, somebody was telling me about this actually at Blog World, that if you, for Harrow, which is really the top one, if you respond within the first 15 minutes, you're more likely to get on Forbes and Newsday, all the New York Times. The reporters that are working for the papers that you really want to be on, they're getting so many queries from authors that you have to do it quickly. So you have to make it part of your daily schedule. But you can get some really great coverage that way. So you want to be doing that. And that's a great way for you to get some coverage without any help from anyone else.
What was the second one? Help Reporter and Pitch?
Steve Harrison's Reporter Connection, and just go to pitchrate.com. And you sign up, and you can, on PitchRate, you can even put in, you know, what your specialties are. And so you'll only get pitches that relate to you.
You know, with Harrow, you have to kind of wade through it. And it's true what Nina said, you have to act fast, because there are people sitting on that feed just waiting for those posts, you know, those emails to drop in.